Hey, what's up guys, Best in West here, and today we're going to be going over Kingdom Cup Energy Farm. And sorry if my voice is a little off today, I'm still getting over a little sickness, so please bear with me. Hopefully I get better soon and my voice will get back to normal, but I'm trying to get this information out to you guys, so yeah, let's get to it. So pretty much what today's video is going to be about potential energy farms. And what I mean by that is potential matchups where you'll have a favorable outcome and have energy going into the next Pokemon. So that means don't use your charge moves right away. You will probably have a better outcome if you save that energy for the next Pokemon. There's a tactic that I used pretty often and it's served me well several times. So as you can see right here, we have Lapras, Steelix, Altaria, Lucario, and Bastiodon. These aren't the only Pokemon that I'm going to be covering, but these are probably going to be the most prominent ones. So let's get to the first slide. So as you can see right here, I kind of drew this up for you guys, so if you guys want to screenshot it or whatever, it might be useful. But we have Ice Shard Lapras going against Altaria. We also have Steelix going against Altaria, and we also have Bastiodon going against Altaria. And all of these have potential to be energy farm, not necessarily always going to be an energy farm, but you're definitely going to have a positive matchup where you'll have either stored energy or some kind of positive aspect to carry over onto the next Pokemon. We have Steelix versus Bastiodon, and I have an asterisk here, and what that asterisk means is that you have to be worried about something. There's something I want to mention when talking about that specific matchup. So right here you have Lucario and Blaziken against Bastiodon. You have Lucario and Blaziken against Steelix, and you have Lucario, Blaziken against Melmetal. I grouped both of these guys up just because they both have counter, and that's going to be the move that's allowing you to farm this energy, right? But they have very different uses, so keep that in mind as we move on to the next slide. So the first one is Lapras versus Altaria, and I'm going to pull this PV poke up right here. And so what I did on this PV poke was I played with the sandbox, and what the sandbox allows you to do is run simulations where certain moves are used and certain moves are not used. So right here I could get a surf off right here, right? But I decided not to. I decided to charge up my energy and pretend as if it were an actual match, to the point where I could get an Ice Beam off. As you can see, it's highlighted, it's available to me now, but I go ahead and use Surf. And now I'm assuming that this is that he's going to shield because he doesn't want his Altaria to faint from this one hit. So it's good. He's going to decide to block it. I'm also assuming that I don't shield this Sky attack. So this is like, I just want to tank it. So this is one of the largest positive matchups in my opinion. So not only do you burn a shield with this Surf, but you end up saving all this energy, and just using Ice Shard, you're left on the next Pokemon, you can get a Surf off or Ice Beam off, and you saved a shield. So you burned a shield, you took out their Pokemon, and you have all this energy built up for the next Pokemon. So Ice Shard Lapras with Ice Beam and Surf is super good in this matchup. So keep that in mind. This is a potential energy farm, so if you get into this matchup, kudos to you. This is a slam dunk. Go with it. So moving right along, we have Bastiodon against Altaria. So Bastiodon versus Altaria, I did the same thing right here. So with Bastiodon versus Altaria, right here I just ran the sandbox again and ran smackdowns and allowed Altaria to just get all these Dragon Pulses off. You can mess around with this sandbox again if you want, but pretty much if you don't shield any Dragon Pulses and don't use any charge moves, pretty much for the next Pokemon you'll have full energy to get off whatever charge move you want. Now the only thing is Bastiodon's charge moves are very expensive, so even if you save up that 100 energy capacity, you can only get one charge move off at a time. Like, you can't do any charge moves back to back. So if it's a Lucario or something like that, they'll get a counter off on you and you might faint anyways. But you can take out Altaria just using fast moves. Don't have to burn any shields. It's just another slam dunk. So Bastiodon versus Altaria, go for it. Next one, we have Steelix versus Altaria. Now this one's a little bit more hairy. This one, so the thing is, Steelix resists all of Altaria's moves. So Dragon Breath is resisted by Steelix's Steel typing, and Sky Attack gets resisted by Steel typing. Dragon, like I mentioned, gets resisted by Steel typing. So what you get is Dragon Tail is going to be dealing super effective damage. Crunch is going to be dealing neutral damage. So although this simulation that I'm running right here is a loss for Steelix, you're burning a shield and Altaria is left with 12 health, which if you can get rid of Altaria, you can pretty much bring in your Lucario almost with no threat. And if you can do that, then I think that's a total win. That's assuming Altaria is blocking this crunch, right? Now, let's say Altaria does not block that crunch. You win this matchup, and by a good amount too. You have 37 health left, and you probably have a little bit of energy built up. As you can see right here. Let's say I didn't even use this crunch, right? Altaria will get another Sky Attack off, and you don't want that. Although you will resist it, and you can get an Earthquake off. No, you can't get Earthquake off. So I highly suggest you use that second crunch. Okay, so this is one of the ones where you're not necessarily getting an energy farm from Altaria, but you are able to defeat it and get an advantage or burn a shield and barely lose this matchup. So I highly suggest, if you have a Steelix, this is a good matchup for you. Go ahead. If Steelix is your only Pokemon, let's say you didn't get Bastiodon, if you have Steelix, this will counter Altaria just fine. So that's Steelix versus Altaria. Steelix versus Bastiodon. So this is one where Steelix actually beats Bastiodon. Bastiodon is a superior counter to Altaria. It's also a superior counter to Lapras in my opinion, but Steelix does beat Bastiodon in a head-to-head matchup. So in this case, we have a no shields situation, right? So surprisingly, in a no shield situation, Bastiodon can survive an Earthquake. So Earthquake deals double super effective damage to Bastiodon, but it can still survive just because of this insane defense stat. So after Bastiodon eats this Earthquake and Steelix eats this Flamethrower, you're gonna want to try to charge up some energy right here and then get a crunch off. Once you get that crunch off, you'll have some energy left over, as you can see by this icon right here. how full it is, because if you don't use the crunch, Bastiodon will get another flamethrower off, and you don't want to eat that if you don't have to. I just say, like, if you don't have to eat it, you can burn the energy instead. Go ahead and do that. Now, if you feel like you want to burn the shield and save the energy, that might be worth it for you, depending on what the next Pokemon is. Let's say their team has no more shields. You know they have like a Blaziken or a Lucario left. You have one shield. Those two Pokemon don't really rely on charge moves. Go ahead and burn the shield on this Bastiodon. Save that energy from that crunch and go ahead and use Earthquake as soon as that the Blaziken or Lucario come out. So that's Steelix versus Bastiodon. I hope that helped kind of show you how to maximize your benefit in this matchup. It's definitely one that you'll probably see if you're a Steelix user. Yeah, it's a really interesting matchup, and there's so many possibilities that could happen. But moving right along, we have Lucario and Blaziken versus Bastiodon. So Lucario and Blaziken versus Bastiodon. First, we're going to take a look at Lucario. We're going to have Counter, Power Up Punch, and Shadow Ball. So in this simulation that I ran, we didn't use Power Up Punch. We just used counters to knock out Bastiodon. Now, I suggest you do this. You will need a shield. So Lucario will need a shield to beat Bastiodon in a head-to-head battle, no matter what. So I'll show you what happens if you don't shield this. If you don't shield this, Bastiodon will get this flamethrower off, and Lucario will faint. So the other option is that you can go ahead and use this Power Up Punch right here, and so apply the buff. And so if you get that Power Up Punch off, Bastiodon will faint even faster, so it won't even get a chance to use its charge move. So what this does is that it saves a shield, and you get powered up, and you knock out Bastiodon faster. So like I mentioned, you can also decide not to use this Power Up Punch and just use Counter instead, but you have to make sure you shield this flamethrower. If you don't shield this flamethrower, your Lucario is going to faint. Now, if you just decide to use counters, you have 99 energy saved up for this next Pokemon. That allows you to use Shadow Ball or Power Up Punch. This is like, it's totally up to you, and it's a decision making, and it's situational. For me personally, I'd rather just use the Power Up Punch and get that boost, getting ready for that next Pokemon, and also save that shield. Shields are super important in this cup, and I think the more you can save, especially if you're using Lucario, the better. So that's Lucario versus Bastiodon. The next one is going to be Blaziken versus Bastiodon. Now, right here I have a sim running where Blaziken will use Brave Bird. Now, as you can see, Blaziken will win with 36 health left, and you still have to shield this Stone Edge. Now, Blaziken can only beat Bastiodon with the shield. Now, let me show you what happens if you don't shield this. Blaziken will lose. Not by much, but it will lose. So, if you decide to shield this, you win by 36 health. Now, if you decide to not use Brave Bird and just go with the counters, you still win. Brave Bird is not very effective against Bastiodon. Sorry, instead of Smackdown, it does get a Stone Edge off, but you want to make sure you shield that. So you win by 36 health. So with that 36 health, pretty much you win no matter what, whether you use Brave Bird or not, except in this situation, you can save that Brave Bird for the next Pokemon and use it to either burn their shield or hit them for big damage, right? Even here you have the option of Focus Blast, so that does even more damage to the likes of Lapras, other Pokemon, right, that are weak to fighting. Maybe Bronzong, Steelix. So yeah, those are like your options. So I highly suggest, if you're in this matchup of Blaziken versus Bastiodon, just go ahead, don't use any charge moves, just use counter to knock out Bastiodon. Just make sure you shield that Stone Edge. So the next slide, we have Lucario versus Steelix. So this is definitely a positive matchup for Lucario. So if we were to just use counters, you would be left with 72 health left and have a ton of energy built up for the next Pokemon. This is assuming that Steelix is charging up for an Earthquake. Now if you don't shield this Earthquake, obviously Lucario is dead. If you do shield it, you have 72 health left. Now you might say, oh, what if he uses Crunch? Even if he uses Crunch, make sure you shield it. It's just, excuse me. Even if he uses Crunch, shield it, it's just not worth it to let Lucario faint due to an Earthquake. Now if you want to make sure that he has enough energy to use an Earthquake though, you don't want to shield if you don't have to. Now if he uses a Crunch right here, don't block it. After 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Dragon Tails, if he uses a charge move, don't block it. It's going to be a Crunch. Now 7 charge moves, sorry, 7 fast attacks, it's going to be it's a potential to be an Earthquake, and if that's the case, go ahead and block it no matter what. He won't be able to get another Earthquake off, even if with that saved energy. Counters will knock out that Steelix before he can get to another Earthquake, so you're good on that front. So that's the Lucario versus Steelix matchup. Now we have Blaziken versus Steelix. So in the Blaziken versus Steelix matchup, you have a very similar situation where, yeah, you just shield that and just use counters to knock him out. The only thing is that's different with Lucario versus Steelix and Blaziken versus Steelix is that Power Up Punch gives you a buff, right? This is Lucario's. Power Up Punch gives you a buff for that next Pokemon. So it might be worth it to just go ahead and use that Power Up Punch early and knock him out right away. If you do it this way, you don't have to even worry about, an Earthquake, right? Like Steelix won't even be able to get off an Earthquake by the time you knock him out. So in my opinion, this is the best way. Go ahead and use that Power Up Punch as soon as you can. That way Steelix doesn't get a chance to burn a shield or anything like that. So, but you want to make sure you're counting those fast moves so you know that it's not to not block a Crunch, not to make sure that Steelix doesn't get a chance to bait that shield. But yeah, Blaziken's a little bit different. It doesn't have Power Up Punch, so in my opinion, go ahead and burn that shield, save up that energy for that next Pokemon, and use that built up energy to hit that next Pokemon with heavy damage, or burn a shield with them. Because if I were the Steelix user, I wouldn't block a Brave Bird or a Focus Blast because I know counters will just knock me out very fast anyways. So that's just if someone were to use a Focus Blast against my Steelix, I'd be more than happy to let my Steelix faint because that burns a lot of the built up energy that Blaziken had. And the last matchup is Lucario Blaziken versus Melmetal. This one is just pretty lopsided in my opinion. Now, Lucario can beat Melmetal with no shields and just counters, but it will be left bloodied. 3 health left. So what I suggest you do is go ahead and just use Power Up Punch as soon as you can and knock out Melmetal as soon as you can as well. Thundershock will be dealing neutral damage to Lucario. Rock Slide is resisted, but Thunderbolt does do damage. So what's going to happen is instead, they're probably going to use Rock Slide as soon as possible, which Lucario is going to be resisting. And if so, if in a no shield situation, then Lucario will knock out Melmetal in one power-up punch. But Melmetal and Lucario get off their charge moves at the same time, so it might take this damage, it might not. Either way, you'll be able to win this matchup. So go ahead and don't block it. If you lose the charge move priority, go ahead and don't block that, because it's going to be a Rock Slide, not a Thunderbolt. Okay, so that's Lucario versus Melmetal. The next matchup and last one is Blaziken versus Melmetal. So what happens is that in this matchup, Melmetal will get a Rock Slide off, but it's still not going to be enough to knock out Blaziken. So by the time you can use one of Blaziken's charge moves, Melmetal already has like very little health. As you can see right here, Melmetal will have 8 health left, right? 23 health left. Gets one more counter, 8 health left. Gets one more counter, it's fainted. So, but you'll have energy built up for the next Pokemon. And when you have energy, you can go ahead and spam it. Either Brave Bird. I would probably, if I wasn't at Focus Blast yet, I would go ahead and just spam Brave Bird, because you only have 16 health left, and Blaziken is pretty squishy. So go ahead and at least you can get some damage off on the next Pokemon. You knocked out Melmetal already with no shields, and you're in good shape for whatever's happening next. That's my suggestion. Now, if you did have a shield and you wanted to block this, that's totally a good idea as well. That saves you 70 something health on your Blaziken. If you feel like they also have a Bastiodon or a Steelix or another one of these Pokemon that Lucario and Blaziken are advantageous against. Alright, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure, if you guys haven't yet, make sure you subscribe and like this video. Go ahead and push that bell notification button, and that's it. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. What do you guys think? Are there any other matchups that I forgot? If so, let me know. And that's it, guys. This is Best in West. I'll catch you guys later.